And there you go, Lightshine Theater with Military Man on Classic Christian Rock Radio. I told you they've got that one nailed really well. A really good cover of that song by Resurrection Band. Talking with Mark Sturm of Lightshine Theater, and he is the drummer. And Mark, go ahead and tell us briefly the names of the other guys and what their role is in the band as far as instrument, vocal, etc.
Okay. We've got Scott Walden is our lead vocalist and also plays some rhythm guitar and some leads. You've got Rob Mitchell that plays a little harmonica and plays guitar. And then we've got Matt Rice who plays lead guitar, and then John Rice who is our bass player.
All right. Now, in the last segment, you were talking about Glenn Kaiser and the effect that he had on your life when you were 15. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. The whole scene, in the mid to late '80s with Christian music. That there was. I remember you go to the local Christian bookstore, and if you were asking for Christian rock, they would give it to you, but they had it behind the counter. They wouldn't have it out on display. It was kind of taboo almost to listen to Christian rock. And there were bands that were out there. Petra was out there and kind of big, and bands like that were a little bit more poppy and everything. But Res Band was the first band that was a hard rock band, and that I thought, these guys are a rock band, and it just blew me away when I first heard it. I just thought, this is music that I could really, really sink my teeth into, that I could really listen to, that I really loved. And for a long time, I was when in those formative years, I was, doing my best, trying to just listen to Christian music, not listening to a lot of secular music. And the reality was there wasn't a lot of good quality Christian rock out at the time. It really took into the late '80s, early '90s until you really started to get a lot of stuff that was really of good quality.
Right. Yeah.
But so it was as a young Christian, and right around that time, probably in '84, '85, I started playing in a band with Scott, and we decided early on that we wanted to be a Christian band. We didn't want to be a band; we wanted to be a Christian band, and we really kind of thought of Res Band and Glenn Kaiser as being, if we're going to do a Christian band, that's how we want to do it. We want to do it like the guys in Res. I just remember listening to Glenn's rap on the end of the Bootleg Live album,
right.
Over and over and over again, and it just really hitting home that if you wanted to be a Christian, don't just say you're a Christian, but live the life and do the things that Jesus asked you to do. It's just not lip service. It's living the life and being a follower of Jesus, not just saying, I'm a Christian and showing up at church once a week, but being a follower of Christ and it was just, hearing those words and realizing that, I could be in a rock band and still be a Christian and still have, I can have an impact on people that listen to my music in a positive way. It was just something that, that's just a few years before that, before I discovered Res Band, that I wouldn't even have thought was possible. If I was going to be a Christian band, I'm going to, it's going to be, Keith Green or something like that,
Nothing against Keith Green, but my musical taste definitely leaned toward Res Band a lot more than Keith Green.
Yeah, that was a big thing for us, that we could, there's music that we liked that was hard and that was energetic, and but still it had just a wonderful message, and it was it was just so great for somebody, for a kid who's 14, 15, 16 years old, trying to find your way through middle school, high school, that age. Those are hard times for people, and to have somebody say, this is the way you should live your life, and the way the guys in Res Band really modeled that behavior. It wasn't just that they were just, say this and then do something else. No, they were living that life.
Yeah,
so.
they not just talking the talk, but they're walking the walk. And, it occurs to me that you mentioned Glenn's rap on the Bootleg album. One thing that's really cool about most of the artists from back in that day, in the late '80s, well, even the mid to late '80s, they weren't afraid to really preach the gospel, to really put it out there and talk about the faith. I think more so than today. It's hard for me to imagine someone putting the like Glenn's rap on a CD today, whereas back then they put it on there and look, it had an effect on you. So yeah. So
well, yeah, it's just
go ahead.
Yeah, back then, you go to see a Christian concert, you were not, more than expecting. It was almost, you almost demanded that they give an altar call at the performance, that they talk about Jesus and they talk about getting saved, and they, come on down to the front if you've made a decision tonight. I remember seeing Mylon Lefebvre play a number of times, and Mylon preached more than he played music. He played two songs and then he'd go, "Why don't you all sit down a minute?" And then he'd preach for 40 minutes, and then they'd play two more songs, and the concert was over.
Yeah. Oh man. What was I going to? Oh, I know what to ask you about. And that's your personal faith. How did you personally come to Jesus? If you can, real brief, 1 minute to 2 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I used to think that my story was kind of boring, and because I grew up in a Christian home and Christian parents, and I never really had I never really had the straying off the beaten path, like in the behind the music where and then tragedy, none of that stuff. I pretty much from an early age, I knew what being a Christian was all about, and I kind of just have walked my whole life. And like I said, I used to think that testimony wasn't very powerful, because I didn't have this great conversion, and I didn't, turn from my evil ways or anything like that. But now that I'm a little bit older and I'm a parent and all that, I realize that that's a pretty powerful testimony that I never really strayed too far from the path pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
And I don't know a lot of people that can say that. And, that's something that I pray and hope for my kids, is that, they've grown up in a Christian home and that they will, walk the straight and narrow their whole life and not have to deal with the issues of stepping off the path and going into crazy who knows what.
Yeah, it's a cool thing, and your perspective definitely changes when you're a parent, forget about whether it's a cool testimony or not, just the fact that God is active in your life, and you get to avoid, growing up in a Christian home, you get to avoid so much of the problems that other people face. That's a blessing. That's a great thing.